I'm going to start letting people in now.
And Geneva, you said there are around 60 signed up for it.
Yes. So we are letting people into the meeting now. So everyone who has just logged on, thank you for joining us. Just going to take a couple of moments to let everyone get connected and then we'll get started. But thank you so much for being here. You're welcome to put your name and where you're from in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll get started in just a couple moments. Thank you all for starting to put your introductions in there. That's great. I'm going to go ahead and just get going with my introduction. I want to welcome you all to Art in Action, Social Justice and Storytelling. My name is Geneva Blackmer, and I'm the Interim Director for the Interfaith Center at Miami University, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that seeks to unify people through relationship building, dialogue, and social action. The Interfaith Center at Miami University is located within the traditional homelands of the Miami and Shawnee people. The Miami people, whose name our university carries, were forcibly removed from these homelands in 1846. We encourage you to support the work of the Miami Center at Miami University, dedicated to the revitalization of Miami language and culture and to restoring that knowledge to the Miami people. Throughout the course of human history, art has served as a medium for transcendence and meaning among many of the world's religious traditions. Art offers a universal language that cuts across social barriers and provides a gateway into collective consciousness, challenging systems of power and privilege and restoring our common humanity. So I'm deeply honored to welcome our two panelists today, Saad Ghosn and Roman Williams, who have both developed artistic philosophies which put storytelling and social justice into action within interfaith spaces and beyond. Our first panelist, Saad Ghosn, is the founder and president of SOS Save Our Souls Art, a Cincinnati-based organization that promotes the use of arts as vehicles for peace and justice and for a change towards a better world, and which holds now its 22nd year in Cincinnati, a yearly collective art exhibit and an art festival of creative expressions of local artists for peace and justice. He is also the editor and publisher of the yearly For a Better World, Poems and Drawings on Peace and Justice by Greater Cincinnati Artists, which is now in its 21st year. And I'm going to put his full biography in the chat in case anyone is interested in reading more. And Saad, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Geneva, and thank you, Becca, for inviting me to be here. And I'm really glad to be here and to meet many of you virtually. Yeah, I started the SOS ART 22 years ago with the idea to, encourage, promote, and mostly provide venues to local artists to use their art as their voice for a better world and for something that is important to them. And let me go to my slide here and then slideshow. Okay. And today, the title of my presentation is Empowering the Voice of Every Artist for Peace and Justice and for a Better World, because that's really the goal of SOS Art. SOS Art's mission is based on the belief that every person, every one of us, has something unique and important to say, and that each of us are an artist in our own way. But we need to be given the opportunity to use our voice for what is important to them, to us, and to let our art grow and contribute to this world. When art comes from within us and away from just societal demand for a consumer object, every artist's voice then will end up affirming who we are as individuals and secondarily contributing to peace and justice and to a better world. Again, that is what SOS Art aims at, and that is what SOS Art tries to do. So the question next is really, how does this really work with peace and justice? And the first thing that, when here in our society, when we think frequently of art, we think of a beautiful object, an artistic product that is really attractive, that you can buy, live with, and be happy about. And that's very, very important. But if we limit art to that part, we'll be removing a good part of what art is about, which is the voice of the artist. The voice of the artist as an expression tool, a communication tool, as a way to reflect the artist's values, beliefs, life, what's important to them, what they would like to see change in the world, and offering an alternative. I would like here to quote Ernst Fischer, an Austrian writer who, in The Necessity of Art, written in 1959, said, "Art is necessary in order that man be able to recognize and change the world." But also he added right away, in a decaying society, art, if it is truthful, and here I would like to underline truthful, must also reflect decay. Art must show the world as changeable, and art must help creating it. So the question is, what is art and why is it important? Why, according to Fisher, it's so important, and why nowadays everyone speaks about art for a change? First of all, art is a creative activity, and a creative activity is a human capacity of a transcendental nature. It's the activity which brings us above the matter and connect us to the spiritual. As a creative process, art uses imagination and skills and bring to life something new and beautiful, but not only beautiful, something that is meaningful to this world. So the artist, by using a piece of art, add beauty to the world, but also use its tool, its art, to express important ideas and feelings. In this context, I all the time say that every artist is a creator. We have each of us a godly quality that demands that we use it to create. We become co-creators in this world. And when we say co-creators, that our role should be active in adding beauty, meaning, peace, and justice to this world. So to make the world a better, equal, and just place becomes then the artist's responsibility because of this potential, of this quality of creativity that each of us is being given. Okay, now the next one here. Oh, it's not going down anymore. Okay, I'm sorry. But every creative activity, and for many of you who have done art or any kind of creative work that you do, you realize that it's not something just that comes from outside you. It is an integrative activity. It's one that involves you entirely, merges your mind, your intellect, your emotions, your intuition, your imagination, your values. And all of this, when you create, you put it together, and therefore the piece that you create ends up reflecting you. A truthful artist cannot ignore, therefore, the reality and silence their experiences, their soul, their feelings. And when they create, all of these, if they are truthful in their creative act, will come out. Their art becomes their voice to reflect, express, and communicate their beliefs and their values. What's going here? Okay. While creating, the artists focus on themselves also. That's another aspect of the creativity, and probably many of you who've done it realize when you create, you focus on yourself and you're free of outside rules and regulations. You transcend the moment. You're lost in your creativity. It's a very intense moment where you put all of your brain into what you're doing. And this brings you above the material and connects you to a receptive spiritual state. And then you use your imagination to transcend literal reality, to imagine the unseen, and therefore to present the world with alternatives way of being and with alternative solution to what exists. And that's really the creation part of the artist, in which the artists contribute to a better life. And here I would like to quote Herbert Marcuse, a German philosopher, who said, "Art allows the artist this imaginative space for freedom to regenerate the lost, the hidden, the creative, the spiritual, and intuitive capacities of human life." Therefore, artists brings to life a new form, original to the artist and reflective of the artist, artist not only transmits what they think, but also creates a new imaginary possible world. Artist, therefore, does not just conform to reality, but as a co-creator, helps break the monopoly of established reality, define what is real, again, according to Herbert Marcuse, and creates what it can be. And that's really the power of every one of us in our creativity, is really to add something different, to add something new to this world. Now, I would like now to address the creative act and its effect on the artist, because creating art and being receptive to it and doing truthful art changes the artist and makes the artist much more in tune with social justice. The process of art making creates a meditative space, a place where the spiritual life and the creative life converge, and where one is held in the present moment that we call the state of flow. And probably many of you have experienced when you're creating art, time goes by, you forget about yourself, you're completely immersed in what you're doing, you're happy, and then you're all the time focused on what you're doing. And this state has been corroborated medically by changes in the brain. Functional magnetic resonance imaging documented brain changes during flow, during this creative act, where the critical part of the brain, the rational part of the brain is silenced, and the imaginative, the creative part is, activated. But these changes do not only occur, when you do the creativity, it also occurs at long term if you're involved in a regular creativity. And individuals who are creative become freer, more receptive, less inhibited, less prejudiced, and the art helps them discard their preconceptions. They envision and create something new. It opens their minds. It makes them more accepting and understanding. Studies showed, and many studies showed, that art increases empathy, tolerance, and feelings of love. So therefore, the result of the creative act is it's a process that involves and connects the entire individual. It's like really giving birth to something where you put all of yourself in it. It reflects the artist's life, experiences, values, beliefs, points of views. Otherwise, it will be besides the artist. It reflects reality and social justice issues because the artist lives them. And it offers a new imagined reality. And this creativity also changes the artists themselves. But this is not really, doesn't come just without responsibility, because artists have all of these potentialities and capabilities. It becomes their duty and responsibility to add and to contribute to the creation, making it better. Now here, I would like to distinguish between art for art's sake and for the artist's sake. And, that's really what, SOS Art is trying to do in our work. Art for art's sake is really looking at art as a profession to produce a consumable object, as a commodity, something that you can really sell. And that's really, the goal becomes the art object itself, the concept and the technique behind it. Art becomes a consumer product, but limited to the few. Art becomes dictated by the consumer's want, away from the artist's needs, and society and art schools frequently stress that conceptual and abstract art that becomes elitist, non-threatening. So why is it so? Because, society, our consumer capitalistic society, that's what they would like to limit the artist to. Create a piece that we can sell. But by doing this, they distantiate the artists from themselves, and they bring them to a kind of sterile creativity. So this commodity product is what society expects, even imposes on the artist. And as I was saying, it distances the artist from their inner self. It silences and kills the artist's inner voice due to non-use and neglect. Of course, there is a role in art for the creation of a beautiful consumable object. And in doing so, art still carries individual emotions, but sadly, in isolation and in confinement, dissociated from social reality of the artist. And this will distantiate the artist from themselves. Now, where does art for the artist's sake come? And for me, art is for the artist's sake primarily, because, it is a creative act not dissociated from the artist's experiences, beliefs, values, life past. It is as a response to an integrative process. It is an expression, self-reflection, and communication needs of the artist. And art becomes at the service of the artist, urgent creative need, art as therapy. So in conclusion, genuine and truthful art implicating entirely the artist becomes for the artist's stake, their life, their beliefs, and their values. And I like this comparison that, when an artist creates art, they should create it for themselves first and then can share it to others. It's like giving birth to a child. When people give birth to a child, they don't really give birth to a child for the others. They do it first for themselves. It's exactly the same analogy. Now, I can extrapolate and said then art becomes for life's sake. Why? If it's for the artist's sake, it means it's for the artist's life's sake of what art reflects for the art as the artist, but art reflecting the artist as a human being and a citizen, artist as a force for saying the truth, reflecting what's taking place, pointing to what needs changing, offering an alternative. Therefore, art becomes for a better life and for a better world from the artist's point of view. And this will be the contribution of the artist. Art, therefore, is the artist's voice to assert themselves, their identity, their communication tool, the conveyor of their messages, the creator of alternative. Art is the artist's voice to contribute to this world. And finally, here in summary, if that's true, therefore, artist's voice needs to be expressed and grow and communicate. And this is not only the responsibility of the artist, but it's the responsibility of each of us who really want to promote a better world, to give options and opportunities to every person to be able to use their art and express their voice. And that's our mission with SOS Art. It is the artist's responsibility to use it and let it grow and not die. And you're all familiar with the famous proverb, use it or lose it. If you're a dancer and you don't practice dance for a year, you're going to lose your skills, etc. It's also the parable of the talents that I like to quote. Even though it's a Christian parable from the gospel, I use it in a very human sense in the way that we each have potential talents, and if we don't use them, we will be sinning. And when I say sinning, we'll be going away from who we are. We'll be neglecting our identity. We will not be affirming who we are. Also, I like to quote the parable of the lamp under the bushel, which says very eloquently, if there is light, you cannot really hide it. It will be a sin to hide light because, you would not help other benefit from it, and you won't really let it grow in the world. So therefore, it becomes the artist's responsibility, and each of us to develop our voice and our talents, to let them grow, to contribute to peace and justice and to a better world. And by the same way, it becomes everyone's responsibility to nurture the same in others. In conclusion, genuine and truthful art implicates, engages, and reflects the artist. It ceases to be just for the sake of the consumable object and becomes for the sake of the artists themselves, their life, experience, values, beliefs, views of the world. It becomes for the sake of life itself, adding beauty and betterment to the world, peace, justice, change for a better world. And it is everyone's responsibility to develop it and to let it grow. Also, society's responsibility to provide opportunities to help everyone growing their voice. Now, the second, I have two short parts that I want to say because, I was asked also to share where I fit, as an artist. I'm going to speak a little bit of my path as an artist in this respect, share some of my words, my work along these lines, and then I will speak very briefly about SOS Art, what I do. My path as an artist, I can see 2001 that as a limiting divide. Pre-2001, I was very much in touch with myself, but all of my art was, playful, ludic, personal, emotional, but not really focusing on social justice issues. In April 2001, and many of you probably are aware of that, we had racial riots in Cincinnati following the killing by the police of Timothy Thomas. And in September 2001, we had 9/11. This for me was a click to really start expressing myself and using my art for my beliefs. So I started doing socio-political drawings. I founded SOS Art in May 2003, and I started using woodcuts as a medium to disseminate my own beliefs, but not only to disseminate them. When I did them, my purpose was not at all to disseminate them. My purpose was really to strengthen and stress and affirm my own message, my own beliefs, so they will grow. So my voice, myself will grow and will give me more energy to grow more and more and to offer possibility of solutions or seeds to plant in the world. So these are some of my woodcuts. And they are all woodcut prints that are 22 by 30. And you will see here, a little bit my messages in them. This one is, my name is Arab, and it's really about profiling. And I did it, several years ago, when until now it's a common issue where Arabs, and mostly Muslims at the time, but mostly Arabs, were being profiled. And in this group of people, you have, some individuals who are dressed in a different dress, which is written on with Arabic word, and then and they are equal gender, all ages, and the only ones that are being pointed to are those individuals who are different. And this was really the idea of profiling of Arab people at that time. This can apply to any profiling. It can apply to blacks, can apply to gay people, it can apply to transgender, to ethnic minority. So this is really kind of like a universal message that I use it, applying it to a certain time. What's happening? It's not moving anymore here. Okay. Okay. Now, this one is really, again, it's really can really think about it so much now with everything going on in the world. When we think about Ukraine, when we think about Palestine, Gaza, when we think about all of this conflict in the world, this is we will conquer, we will rule. Unfortunately, what I meant in this one is that frequently our rulers and leaders just use their force to provide peace. And when they do this, they will never provide peace. The only thing they will do, they will step on people, kill them, and contribute to death. This one is so applicable right now too, is in which we say we see sons no more. That really we're living in a sea of lies, and we're so easily dissuaded because of ideological reasons or because of so many different things to go and follow lies. We are like become like pawns. We are blindfolded, and we can be moved so easily from one place to the other, away from the reality of who we are, of our world. And this is really about, we see suns no more, even though they are right in front of us, shining. And this one is in the land of the free. We're so proud here in the United States to say we are free. We're in the land of the free. My point is, if we're not given the conditions to be free, we're not at all free. In this particular drawing that I did, you have a lot of birds who are free. They are not in cages, but what is their space of freedom if they are in a forest of thorns? It's really completely gone from them. And when I did this one, I was thinking of all the limitations in our society here. People who cannot really go to see the doctor even when they have cancer. People who cannot send their kids to the school. People who cannot go and buy stuff because it's far away from where they are and they don't have a car. All the problem of social justice that we deal every single minute in our life. This one is the road to peace, and it's so applicable to what's going on right now. We frequently are very proud to say, oh, we want to apply peace. We want a road to peace, but we don't know. We know it very well, but we fool ourselves by saying, oh, we're going to impose our peace on the other away from justice. And we know very well, if there is no justice, there will never be peace. Okay, this one is Corporation Thanksgiving Turkey, and in this particular one, it is really my criticism of corporations which are replacing us and really taking us as victims. In this particular one, you realize and I called it Thanksgiving Turkey because the human being is becoming the turkey of the corporations, and we don't exist anymore because corporations are ruling us. This one is called In the Name of Jesus, and it was my criticism of using religion to condone violence. And if we use Christianity to condone violence and war, if you could use Islam to condone violence and war, or Buddhism, or whatever, or Judaism, what we'll be doing will be destroying the religion. And in this particular one, I represented a Christ on a cross, but the cross and the Christ are both broken because we are destroying the essence of Christianity by using Christianity to promote ideologies and violence. And this one, it's really, we see nothing, we hear nothing. I did it really thinking of me and of so many of us who are privileged and who frequently close our eyes, close our ears to what's going on right next door. In this particular case, you see a couple, privileged couple, apparently having a good time, but really right on the other side of a very thin wall, you have an authority killing a vulnerable person. And again, this is really, it was a call to me to be active, really, to not let my privilege silence me. And this is the last image. It's called Beds and Beds. And when I did it, I thought of two things at the time. And again, this was really affirming my beliefs and help them to grow. The first one is that there is inequality in the world. On the left, you have a child who is born in a bed of comfort and pleasure and niceness. And on the right, you have beds of nails and you have a lot of people on it in a shattered world. But this, my drawing, when I did it, I really wanted also to strengthen another aspect of it, that this should let me and let everyone else be compassionate in every situation, not just to look that, hey, this person is responsible for doing this or that, be judgmental, but we need all the time to put ourselves in the bed of the people and start thinking, what is really behind that particular person? And at the time, we could really understand what's happening and be differently judgmental. Now, SOS Art, as I said, was founded in 2003. We founded it, I said, at the beginning with the racial riots in 2001 and the September 11, 2001. And what happened after, it was the war on terrorism, it was the Patriot Act, it was the invasion of Iraq, it was all the mess going on in the world. And, since then it evolved, and I will tell you how. But the first thing, what are the mission of SOS Art is, again, to encourage, promote, provide opportunities for the arts as vehicles for peace and justice, encourage artists to use their art as their voice on issues of peace and justice that is important to them, facilitate the creation of a local community of artists who work together and contribute to the society, use the art to speak about, inform, educate, and create a dialogue on issues of peace and justice, and use the art to introduce basic values of peace and justice in children and youth. And this part, the educational aspect of SOS Art, has grown a lot because, I believe very strongly that if we want to make a difference in the world, we need to act at very young age of children, because this is when you acquire our values. And once you acquire them, our values remain with us for the rest of our life and dictate everyday actions that we have. What are the principles of SOS Art? It is primarily local. It's democratic, open equally to every single person, irrespective of age, background, socioeconomic, whatever. It's open to every single person. The aim is to promote the voice and the message of the artist, not the artist's notoriety or sellability. It is money-free. All of our activities are free and open to the public. And we believe that gratuity is an important value that is being lost in our society, and that money is one of the main reasons for lack of peace and justice in our world. And that, our reward is really by sharing what is important to us. That's our best way to be rewarded, and not money. What are our activities? A yearly exhibit and festival of the art focused on peace and justice. And actually, it just opened this past Friday. It's a wonderful exhibit. It has 125 artists in it. And when you go there, you will hear 200 messages of peace and justice reflecting, 200 different viewpoints. It is at the Art Academy right now. It is open until July 14. You can go there anytime, 7 days a week from 8 a.m. till midnight. It's really open. I really encourage you to go and see it and be part of the celebration of our community. We publish a yearly book on peace and justice, open to all. We provide exhibits of a lot of local artists and artists from other countries on themes of peace and justice. We provide educational opportunities, workshops, art classes, and we hold panel discussions, public debates, etc., etc. And this is, our website, sosartcincinnati.com, and this is the email. And thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I was very happy to give it to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Saad. Okay, great. So our second panelist will be, and I just want to say that I'm going to hold questions until after Roman's presentation, but you will have time for those. Okay. Our second panelist will be Roman Williams, who's the founder of Interfaith Photovoice, an organization that combines photography and sociology for intergroup and interfaith engagement. He holds a PhD in the sociology of religion from Boston University and a theology master focused on global religions from Gordon Cornwell Seminary. Roman was a tenured associate professor of sociology at Calvin University and served as the executive officer of the Society for the Scientific Study of Religion from 2016 to 2021. His academic publications combine his interest in lived religion and participatory visual methodologies, which come together in his edited volume, Seeing Religion. And I'm going to also place his full bio in the chat. And Roman, I'm going to turn it over.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. Saad, thank you for introducing us to this wonderful work that you are doing. We're going to think about what it looks like to do something that everybody's doing, but doing it differently. We're going to think about how these smartphones that we're already carrying around in our pockets and purses that we're using every day, how we can use those to see deeply into one another's lives across differences and bridge those divides in order to instigate change. In the past, it's been said that empathy is found in walking a mile in another person's shoes, but these days, we should be looking through one another's lenses. This year, the world is on track to snap 1 trillion photographs. 1 trillion photographs. That's a lot of pictures. That's 8 billion people on the planet taking a photo a day. That's roughly 65,000 photographs every second. 65,000 photographs every second. I really appreciate the work that people like Saad and his artist friends do, but I don't know about you, but I can't hold a candle to his wood cuttings. I cannot achieve that kind of artistry, but with a camera in my hands, I can do other things. And people around the world are using cameras on a daily basis. They're documenting their daily lives. They're making photographs. They're snapping them and sharing them. I'd like to introduce you to Lucia, age 12. Lucia lives in Colorado and was part of a project I collaborated with Braver Angels on. Braver Angels is a national organization in the United States that is working to bridge the political divide in America. And we trained a bunch of people last fall. I mentored one of them, also a teenager, Mia, to do her own project. That project happened online, so I had the chance to sit in on it. And when I saw this picture, I was intrigued. The project is focused on hope, seeing hope through the eyes of American teens. Now, if you saw this picture of this Amazon delivery truck and didn't know the story, what story would you make up in your own mind? If you feel like it, go ahead and drop your answer to that question into our chat. What story would you make up? After all, it's been said that photos are worth 1,000 words. What does this picture communicate to you? Well, if you're like me, you might have said, oh, if this is a project about hope and we're looking at someone's picture of a delivery truck, my hope is for, as Patrick says in our chat, a special delivery. I hope it's that thing I ordered. I hope it's my birthday present. I hope it's that thing, that thing, that thing. Or maybe if you live in a rough part of town, maybe you're hoping that your package is still on your front porch when you come home from work or school. But in both cases, we would be wrong. Lucia, 12 years old, wanted us to see something here. She wanted us to see not the delivery, not the package, but the truck. This truck is full on electric. And what 12-year-old Lucia wanted to say about the truck was this. You might think I'm hoping for a package, but I took this photo for another reason. This picture resembles hope because this delivery truck is 100% electric, which is hopeful to me because our planet is heating up. You can still see efforts to try to balance and decrease the amount of CO2 being released in the atmosphere by encouraging 100% electric vehicles and brainstorming ideas to cool our planet in the upcoming years. When we look through the lens of another person, we begin to see the world differently. This is something we used to do all the time. I'm old enough to remember walking into someone's living room, sitting down on their sofa, reaching for the photo album, and sitting shoulder to shoulder and having conversations about the latest trip, the latest celebration. I'm also old enough to remember slideshows and darkened rooms and hours upon hours of photos that you would thought would never end. You know, those were beautiful times. And what made them beautiful is that we did something we've been doing for thousands of years. It was as though we gathered around a campfire in a cave and we told each other stories, and then to remember, we put those pictures on the wall. This is who we are as humans. It's an important part of our life, but so much of the way of the camera, of the cell phone, of the smartphone has gone in destructive directions. Our work at Interfaith Photovoice tries to interrupt that. We're an intervention in this daily practice of photography. We help people see deeply, we help them to bridge divides, and we help them to instigate change. Let me share one last thing from Lucia. Lucia was inspired. I hope she's not our first woman president, but if she is, she has my vote. She is absolutely brilliant. Lucia wrote a poem about hope. Defining hope. Is hope the dew that clings to our world at dawn, or the after smell of rain? Is hope the tulip that sprouts in the crack of concrete in spring? But what is hope to one who has already lost all? Hope is the lone lily in the middle of a pond of ink. Hope is a spark in the middle of a dark night that can start a wildfire. Hope is a dandelion, a wish. Hope is contagious, a contagious practice carried in the breeze. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Photovoice. Photovoice isn't something that I've invented. Photovoice is what's known as a participatory action research technique, which is a nerdy academic way of saying that the people involved in the project are going to be treated as co-equal to the leader, and they're going to be empowered to do something. They're going to be given agency. Photovoice was first developed during a Ford Foundation project in Yunnan province, China, in the early 1990s. Some researchers were trying to understand the health needs of peasant women. And these were the poorest of the poor. These were uneducated, under-resourced, undervalued people. Subsistence farming was their way of life. And this project brought over 60 of these women together to try to understand how to help them. And at one point, one of the researchers who was not from China, was actually from the University of Michigan, not too far from where I live, suggested that they use photography to help bridge the communication gap. So they taught these women how to use cameras, good old-fashioned rolls of film in cameras, and their instructions were simply to document, to take pictures of their experiences with the healthcare system. And every quarter, they brought these women together to have guided dialogues about their experiences. And so you can imagine maybe one woman, now I'm making something up, so forgive me, one woman with a picture of her trying to get her child's broken arm attended to. And she tells her story, and then across the way, a woman says, wow, my story is different, my picture is different, but there's some similar experiences. I took my kid to the dental clinic, and here are the problems I ran into getting their abscess tooth cared for. But even though these were different things that we were trying to address, we can begin to see the structural issues, the way the world is broken and bent, that makes it hard for us to get our needs met. And over the course of a year, these women snapped hundreds and hundreds of pictures, and these themes, these pictures began to stack up. You can imagine pictures piling up into their own kind of bar graphs almost, right? And you can begin to see then the patterns in the world. And at the end of the project, the researchers not only had a mountain of data and information, they, of course, wrote their fancy peer-reviewed journal articles and white papers and reports, but they had a brilliant idea. And that idea was to help these women curate their photographs into an art exhibit that they could then use to engage their world. And during that art exhibit, they had an opening night celebration where the artist, the photographer, the woman who had specific needs, concerns, and experiences could stand next to their picture. As leaders, as friends and family, as stakeholders came through the exhibit and tell their own story. They were given a voice in their community, and that's where this technique gets its name. That the photos give voice to people who don't have a voice in their community, or they give people an opportunity to voice concerns that aren't being raised. And since 2017, I've been using Photovoice in intergroup and interfaith dialogue. For many, many years, Photovoice has been something that's been used in public health, a little bit in education, but it wasn't really until 2017 when a minister friend and I sat down for lunch and said, we were concerned about brown-skinned people from other countries who happen to be Muslim and the new president coming in 2017. What was going to happen to them? Were those claims made during the 2016 election cycle, would they come to pass? And we got a little grant and we started to organize projects. We did 3, one in Richmond, Virginia, one here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I'm based, and another one in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And through those projects, we innovated, we learned how to adapt what was really a research methodology for intergroup engagement. And since 2020, I've been doing that full time. I'd like to briefly tell you about what a project looks like. Let me share my screen again. A typical project is 5 meetings plus an exhibition. In that first introductory session, which is about 2 hours, all these meetings are about 2 hours, we spend some time thinking about something like the golden rule and whatever one's background is, and participants, we might have 20 or so participants from a variety of different religious, spiritual backgrounds. We invite them to draw upon a version of the golden rule that they can use to think about photography. How could we love people through our lens. And then we give them some basic photography tips. We teach them some simple ideas that will improve their photography. Now, I don't think anybody that we've had in a project yet has had a picture on the cover of National Geographic, but their photography skills do improve marginally. And then we send them out with some homework. We ask them, what are your beliefs, your practices, your values? What does that look like in everyday life? Not when you're at your house of worship, but when you're at school or work, or maybe at the gym or the grocery store, or the gas station, or maybe on the road and someone cuts you off. Where are your beliefs and values and practices then? And they come back to the next meeting with their photographs from everyday life. We put them in small groups with their photographs and give them an opportunity to tell stories about these pictures. And as they do, they learn from one another. It might be the first time that the Christian has learned about a Muslim's daily prayers. Maybe they knew that there were 5 times a day, but they didn't know about ablution. They didn't know about the challenges that they face finding a place to pray, the way that America is structured that kind of prevents or makes it at least difficult for Muslims to pray. They learn all these things from their new friend. And by the end of it all, they've gained knowledge. We could call that religious literacy. They've also gained a little bit of empathy. Oh, wow, as a Christian, I can probably pray anytime, any place, anywhere, but my new Muslim friend is telling me how it's hard for them to fulfill that basic commitment that they have to prayer. I think the world should allow for all of us to pray whenever we want to. Maybe we should do something about that. We send them home from that next meeting with another set of homework. What are the bridges and barriers to belonging that you experience in your daily life because of your identity? What things make it possible to be you, and what things make it hard to be you? And again, we do another conversation and we learn a ton from one another. We send them out again, and this time we give them each a time machine, and we ask them to go into the future, so to speak, and to envision what change looks like. Some of these changes, some of these realities that they might want haven't come to be yet. And so these pictures are often very creative, imaginative. Sometimes they're metaphors, sometimes they're proxies, some stand-ins for things that they want to see happen. But then we have another conversation. And by the end of meeting 4, we have stacks of photos that are beginning to pile up into these bar charts, if you will, of themes. Our final meeting with the participants, we work through their photographs. We invite them to curate these visual representations, these stories, into a collection we can put into an exhibit. Oftentimes there's 25 or 30, even 35 pictures. We print them typically on a panel that's anywhere from 20 to 30 inches in size, along with a title and a caption. And then we display them in an exhibit. They invite their friends and family. We invite local leaders, stakeholders. We invite the people that need to hear their stories. For example, in a recent project, and I'm going to show you a few pictures from it in a moment, on Grand Valley State University's campus around belief and belonging, we wanted to make sure that administrators were invited so they could hear the stories of these students and their needs and desires and their experiences around belonging and their religious and spiritual identities. It's one thing to talk it through, it's another thing to see it in action. Let me show you a few photos. Our projects look like this. People from diverse backgrounds sitting around telling stories, sometimes with a picture up on their screen, sometimes with the words that they want to express written out ahead of time, but sharing pictures like this one. Sri says, you know, in a world that is often consumed by material pursuits, this image offers an alternative perspective. It reminds us of the importance of connecting with the divine and seeking spiritual fulfillment amidst the chaos of daily life. And through this picture, she taught folks that, hey, Hindus practice prayer and fasting, and this was news to some of the people in the group. Again, religious literacy at an early stage. What do your beliefs and practices look like? Another person, this time someone who is Jewish, talked about a challenge, a problem. There's this building on campus, and it's where basically all of the Christian organizations hold their services. Grand Valley is a 22,000 student campus, and when she walks past this particular building on Sunday night, she hears them all singing and doing their religious things and she wonders, where is the place for me? Doesn't feel like she entirely belongs. This was a barrier to belonging on campus that Molly helped us to see. Let's talk about another person. This time, Lex. Lex is trans, and she experienced some really challenging moments. Imagine being trans and rejected by many of the more conservative religious groups on campus or the nearby churches. There's not a place here for you. Imagine not being fully accepted as who you are on campus, not necessarily from the administration, but from other students. And imagine being told by your family that you were sinning against God. Lex shared, and prepare your hearts for this. It's a hard story, but it's an important one to hear. Lex shared this photo during our project. On the left in that photo, you see a long text message from Lex's father. Lex in that second paragraph says, in this specific text message, my father told me that my decision to rebel against the authority of God is dividing our family. Holding on to my religious beliefs has meant taking time to reflect on how my family interpretation of our shared religion doesn't have to compromise who I am as a Christian or as a queer person. I don't have to choose one or the other. I can just be me. Powerful words from Lex. One of the things I'm always impressed with in a Photovoice project is the way we're able to create a space where people are willing and feel safe to be vulnerable, and how that vulnerability builds toward trust. Rachel, someone who came from a religious background but has since become more agnostic, not sure where they fit, and talks about the challenges that they experience in terms of finding belonging, distortions and internal conflicts and challenges that disrupt her sense of belonging. At the end of that paragraph, reflecting on their experience during the Photovoice project, I wish we had more spaces like this, like Photovoice, in our community. Well, Muslims sometimes can be predictable. I haven't seen a project where there have been Muslims involved that we haven't seen a picture of prayer. It's such an important part of life. And seeing prayer through Anam's eyes is helpful. The best they can do to find a place to pray is a corner of a classroom. And this one seems maybe that it's accommodating, but it's just one small place. It's just one small reminder that there aren't specific places for me as a Muslim where I can pray on campus. I don't feel as included. It's important to see those pictures and to have those conversations. As I said at the end of the project, folks work together to curate their photographs into a collection. They have a deep, meaningful, and sometimes drawn out friendly debate even of, well, which pictures should we use? We took so many. What are the themes that are important? What kinds of stories do we need to tell to our campus community in this case, or to our organization, or to our business, or to our neighborhood, maybe our school? And from these pictures, people have an opportunity to turn their work into an art exhibit. We did 2 exhibits in Grand Valley. One was in the Student Center as more of a pop-up one-day exhibit. And if there was a photo that was going to capture someone's imagination, that catch their eye as they walk by, it was Lex's picture of their cell phone. And here are these 3 just seem like everyday average, college students walking by, drawn to this picture, walk over. You can see they're not just pointing at that picture as though, hey, look, and it wasn't one point. That's their finger tracking as they read every line of that parent's difficult text message. Lex had the opportunity through this picture to impact these lives. Later, we had another exhibit as part of a president's showcase event, think somewhere between community engagement and research poster session. We were glad to be a part of it, and we had hundreds of people come through that. And it gave someone like Sri, who folks might normally not have the opportunity to hear from or to talk to stand next to her picture, to tell her story, and to be part of the change process. It doesn't end there. We oftentimes will do quick clips of our participants and use their photos and stories and videos to engage folks beyond that community. And if you're interested, you can find us on Instagram at Interfaith Photovoice. Now, briefly, I'd like to say why this works. What's happening here? It's more than making pictures. It's more than small group conversations. It's more than an art display. There's some social science thinking behind it. In the 1940s, a social psychologist named Gordon Allport said this: in the United States, conditions are ripe for abundant group conflict and prejudice. Differences are numerous and visible. The resulting clash of customs, taste, ideologies cannot but help engender friction. I think Gordon Allport's words are as true today or as they were then. Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, religious nationalism, Sunday mornings remain the most racially divided hour. We have things happening all over that could fit under the heading that Gordon Allport has put out here. And he suggested that change can happen under the right conditions. Prejudice, which was his concern, prejudice can be reduced by equal status contact between majority and minority groups in pursuit of common goals. The effect is greatly enhanced if this contact is sanctioned by institutional supports and provided it is a sort that leads to the perception of common interests and common humanity between the groups. That is to say, there are 4 things that need to be in place: equal status contact, common goals, sanctioning, and a perception of common interests and common humanity. Research, looking back over the years, ever since when Gordon Allport said this, hundreds of studies have been done using these ideas, these principles, to bring people together to address things like bias and prejudice. And in 2006, these scholars, Pettigrew and Trapp, looked back at all the projects that were done during the last century. And they concluded this: intergroup contact generally relates negatively and significantly to prejudice. There's an inverse relationship between contact and prejudice. In other words, in the words of the Beatles, if you will, all we need is contact. Contact reduces prejudice when that contact happens in a positive way. As people build more religious bridges that contact, they become warmer toward people of many different religions, not just those religions represented within their social network. Dorothy Lang, years ago, was a photographer during the Great Depression. Her biographer recorded her as saying this, that the camera is an instrument that teaches us how to see without a camera. In other words, that practice of making pictures shapes our internal worlds. Photovoice invites us to step back from that everyday, taken for granted set of practices and to see the world differently, to see it through the lens of another. Our work centers around 4 basic areas. We do workshops, which is usually an hour to 2-hour thing, kind of like what we're doing today, where people actually have a chance online or in person to participate in a short Photovoice activity. If you're interested, you can use this QR code to go to our website and find our workshops page and sign up for one. We do an online free workshop every month. Second, we do projects. Those projects can be in person or they can be online, and those are more like what I've just described, with 5 or 6 meetings and an exhibition at the end of it. We also do trainings. We train people how to facilitate Photovoice projects in their own context, and then we coach them through their first project. We have a training coming up in September, but we can also organize a training just for you, just for your organization. Finally, we do research. We do research, whether that's program evaluation or just basic research about what's happening in a community. Well, it's been a pleasure to be with you, and I'm excited to hear from you, your reactions, your thoughts, your questions, your concerns about this work and about Saad's work. So I'll turn it back over to you, Geneva.
Thank you so much, Roman. Thanks to both of you for your wonderful presentations. I know that I want to be mindful of time, but I also want to open it up for questions if there are any. So if anyone has a question, if you would like to raise your hand or put it in the chat. Okay, Manek? I think you're muted. You need to unmute. We can't hear you, Manek. You need to unmute.
Yeah,
there you go.
very, very interesting presentations, informative. And I joined a bit late, so I might have missed some of the earlier part. But I was impressed by the images that Mr. Ghosn had, shown us. Just wanted to ask him, because maybe I missed it earlier, whether he has an image of how the Zoroastrians of Iran or Persia were, suffered genocide, persecution at the hands of Islamic invaders, the Arabs, the Turks, the Mongols, and even the Iranians who converted, or were forcibly converted to Islam. They suffered for centuries, these persecution, massacres, all that kind of. So I was wondering if he also has an image of that thing.
Shall I answer? No, I do not have images in particular of this particular theme. My images tend to be much more taking certain events that happened to me or thinking about it in my life and try to give a general, universal message, philosophical message about it. For instance, in my image about Christ being destroyed, it can be applied to any other groups who really uses violence away from the teaching, of the religions. And they use it kind of like to, as you said, to kill others, condone violence. So this will be my statements. Now, what really will be wonderful, and that's really what we try to do with SOS Art, is that encourage people to use their voice, their art, to reflect what's important to them. And at that time, not too limited to just an event, but why is it so important to me? Let me put myself in it. Let me create a piece that comes from inside me that can really reflect who I am, what I believe, and so on. And that's what we try to encourage. If you come to our current SOS Art show that we have that has just opened, you're going to have 200 different messages according to what everyone has lived, everyone, what's important. For instance, there is a person who is from Armenia and did a wonderful, originally from Armenia, she's American, but she's a ceramicist, and she did a wonderful ceramics about the issue, of the Armenian genocide and so on, because it's so important to her. And she put it up, and by putting it out, it was affirming herself, but also educating us, creating a dialogue. And that's really what we aim at doing. I think we should all, and I will encourage you, sorry, I missed your name. If this is something that is important to you, you are an artist. If that's important for you, you should really try to do it, express it the way you can. You can express it in a drawing. You can express it in a poem. You can express it in a talk with a friend of yours. You can express it in dealing with other people. But by doing it, really, it will become stronger in you and it will resonate with others. And I think that we should each do that in a certain way.
Thank you for the answer. Also, I had a comment to Mr. Williams' excellent presentation. He mentioned about the 5 times prayers of the Muslims, and many people may not know that the 5 times prayer may have originated from the Zoroastrian religion, because we have that 5 times prayer, custom, and what happened is that there was a Zoroastrian priest that we use the name Dinyar Dastur, but he became a friend of Prophet Muhammad, in his early days. And, he, probably talked to him about the beliefs of the Zoroastrians. And later on, Prophet Muhammad gave him the name of Salman Farsi, which means Salman the Persian. So, but that's what one time I was in a meet conference, of caretakers at the Hoag Hospital, and there was a Muslim lady on the panel. I was on the panel, and someone asked her, what is the significance of the reason for the 5 time prayer? And so she said, well, I don't know. But then I kind of jumped in and said that, this is what we consider it, is that in our material life, we get so busy with politics, jealousy, all kinds of things that we face in the material world, in the office, in the home. And so we break up the day by having 5 times, break away from that material aspect and think of our spiritual aspect, and remind us of our duties, of what we may be doing right or wrong, etc. Just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Manak. We have a question from Becca for both of you. How can both of your art help in fighting social injustices at the level of the masses, besides at an individual level?
Well, I could answer that. I really think that the change we do starts with ourselves and starts with the seeds that we plant in the world. So every artist, if an artist use their art for something that is very important for them, the first thing is that they are empowering themselves, they are strengthening their voice, and they are, by sharing it, inviting and recruiting a lot of people who would resonate with it and will start the phenomenon themselves. I don't really think that at least for me, and I may be biased in this respect, I don't really think that a piece of art has to be very strong to affect masses. A piece of art has to be strong enough to reflect who you are, what you believe in, affirming who you are. And by doing this, it will be planting seeds in so many places. You don't need to know also where the seeds are planted, because every seed that is planted is going to grow somewhere today, tomorrow, in a century, but it will grow. So I don't know. That's really my bias, Becca. I really think frequently people start to say, hey, you know, we want a big piece of art that will show. No, I think every single person of us is an artist. Everything you do, if it comes from within you, is going to be powerful for you because it helps you to affirm who you are, and it will create more and more creativity. And for the others who will listen to you and in which you are planting a seed. And that's really what's important. We're all equal in this respect. I don't really think that one famous artist is much better than you, Becca, or than Geneva, or than anyone else. We're all equal.
Well, that's a great question, Becca. I appreciate it. So our approach, Photovoice, is really something that's a grassroots initiative. And the intent is to begin change at the local level. As a nerdy sociologist, I'll say that the first step toward change is defining the problem, then taking steps toward helping other people to see that problem. And on the local level, I can't think of a better way than inviting people from different walks of life to recruit them to all examine things like belonging, inclusion, or maybe there's a particular challenge. And to teaching people social science techniques can be challenging, but teaching people how to walk around with their camera to gather kinds of evidence, visual evidence that then can be used to communicate back to the world is a powerful tool. And then it doesn't stop there. These relationships build together. They learn something from each other. They build relationships. They develop empathy. They then hopefully get to a point where they have something we might call solidarity, that there's this sense that we're not just a bunch of individuals making pictures anymore, that we are a group. We care about each other. We've learned from each other. We deeply invested in each other. And now we want to tend to the fabric of our own community together. And we want to invite other people in. The photos can take on a life of their own, like any piece of art. It could, it can go online. It can travel. It can be sent to other people in various forms. Saad's books are a great example of that, right? And so it begins to bubble up, it begins to move. But was it Margaret Mead that said not to underestimate the power of a small group of determined people to bring change, or something like that, right? It's not necessarily, doesn't always have to be big. It doesn't always have to be everyone, but it needs to start. It needs to start somewhere. Geneva, you're muted, my friend.
I clicked unmute and it did not work. Sorry. Thank you both for your responses. Patrick, you have your hand up. Did you have a question?
Just a quick comment, Saad. I loved the theoretical perspective that you offered of the life as art, the life of the artist. I really, you explained something to my heart that I felt intuitively so well. And Roman, this is the second time I've seen the Interfaith Photovoice. The first time we had a great practice with it. And it's such an awesome tool to be able to share our perspectives with each other through this ubiquitous medium that we have. So bravo to Geneva for organizing this theory and practice panel. It is really excellent.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank
Good
you,
to see
Patrick.
again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you for being here. Okay, I'm going to turn to some more questions in the chat. This one was from Amber for Saad. Did you first get into printmaking because of the medium's rich history, social and political activism?
Yes, that's a good question, Amber. I started, doing my initial drawing were all black and white, big. And I have a friend of mine who is a printmaker. And when he saw my drawing, he told me, Saad, these are very, very good, will be very good in prints. And then it was a natural moving from there. I really liked the medium itself. I do woodcuts. It's kind of therapeutic. And after you create your image, you can really go through it, and it goes on, and it's very, very satisfying. But also, more importantly, The black and white, I use black and white in my prints. The contrast is very stark. It's direct. It's immediate. When you do, especially woodcuts, relief prints, it's immediate. The image is direct, and you can do it in multiples. So, you know, if I want to put an image here, but, you know, I really think that someone else tells me, hey, you know, I like this image, I would like to do it here, I can very easily multiply it. And that's the medium that has been used all over the centuries by artists to use for a social media, for a social justice, sorry, not social media, for social justice purposes. So because of all of these reasons, I felt it was a very natural medium for me, and I liked it. I'm a little sad right now because I injured my hand, and for the past couple of years, I haven't been able really to carve, but hopefully I'll get back to it sometime. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. There was a question earlier in the chat from Gard. Can you give examples of how art has had a great impact on social justice, such as Picasso's Guernica and others? And this is open to either of you.
I don't know. For me, it goes back to my answer to Becca. There are a lot of works that affects each of us. They don't have to be Guernica. You know, I'm sure I've seen pieces by art by students that are still with me, have affected me. You know, the photographs that Roman showed us, each of us can really remain with us for ages. So the idea is that we don't really need to have big pieces to affect people. We are all exposed ongoingly to messages, and if we open our heart to the message of the other, we're going to be affected by it. So that would be my answer. Now, of course, you do have people who were very, very strong at expressing things and were able to put it, and their image has resonated, and that's very good. I'm not really saying that they're not good, but they are as important, as equal than a drawing by a child that has probably touched me or touched you, because you never know what this will create in me as a response, or in you as a response, or how many people it has created as a response. This would be my answer. Yeah.
I love the ways that pieces of art can impact us. And I love that there are some expressions that we carry with us on a daily basis. But I think what I've seen with amateur photography and structured dialogue, what we call photo voice, can be more powerful in a way. So for example, if you're familiar with the children's book, Where's Waldo, or Outside of the United States, Where's Wally? At the beginning of that book, there's the main character, Waldo, and the drawing of them in their red and white striped shirt and their glasses and their compass and their cane and their dog and all those things. And then you're supposed to go through this book of little crazy drawings and find Waldo and Waldo's stuff and Waldo's friends. And after a while, you don't even have to refer back to the front of the book to know what you're looking for. And by the time you get to the end of the book, you're a little bit better at finding Waldo. Pictures work that way. The picture I showed you at the beginning of this Amazon truck, guess what? Next time you see one, you're going to think of Lucia, and you're going to think of hope.
Of course.
Period. It's going to happen. Imagine another example from another project. A young Muslim woman wanted to talk about how hard it is to find clothes that are modest at the shopping mall. She took a picture of a popular brand store and brought it to a meeting and told her story. Weeks later, one of the people that were in that conversation, a young woman, Christian, was at that store, and guess what? That story about modesty and availability of clothing came right back. So does a picture of the halal food. My market doesn't have a lot of halal food. And if I'm a Muslim, I might bring a picture to a project of, you know, this one shank of lamb that's available. Where can I find the meat that I want to eat, that I need to eat? And that picture, guess what's going to happen? Next time I'm at my supermarket, I'm going to look around for halal food. I'm going to be on the lookout. It's like the world becomes a world Where's Waldo book. And to me, I don't know. No one's out there looking for the Mona Lisa and her smile in everyday life. I don't think. Maybe there are a few people, but I haven't met it. I haven't met anybody out there looking for Van Gogh's trees. They don't exist. They're beautiful. His Starry Night, awesome. Maybe we would see something close to that. But a mundane, everyday scene of this Amazon truck, that's going to change you. You're going to carry that with you. You're going to think of Hope and you're going to think of Lucia. And that's more powerful. But let's not say more powerful. It's powerful in a different way than those pieces of art that sort of rise to the top of a popular consciousness. I'm actually more interested. I'm a sociologist of the everyday. That's where the rubber meets the road. It's where people interact. It's where folks live out their beliefs, their practices, and values. That's what I'm interested in shaping. Could pieces of art? There's a case that has a book about this. I forget the title of it, but there's a book about using pieces of art that one might find in a gallery in interfaith dialogue. It's brilliant. It's good. But what it lacks is that person-to-person interaction. It'd be different if the artist was part of the dialogue and they're sitting next to me and we could talk. A photo isn't really worth 1,000 words. It's only worth 1,000 words if we sit down shoulder to shoulder and talk about it. Sorry. You pushed play. That question pushed play on so many things in my mind.
No, don't apologize. It's wonderful, very powerful. I see clapping emojis going on.
Thank you, Patrick.
So are there any final questions before we wrap up? Anyone who has something they'd like to ask or comment on? Maybe someone we haven't heard from yet. No? Okay. Well, in that case, I just want to thank both of our wonderful presenters today. I don't know if either of you have any closing thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with.
Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for being here, for listening. And I agree wholeheartedly with what Roman said personally, and that's the philosophy of SOS ART, that we start with each of us. We're all equal, we're all important, and we need to be given the opportunity, because if we're given the opportunity to be who we are, we're going to be better persons, and we're going to contribute better to this world. And that's what we need to create. And that's what we try to do with SOS ART.
Yeah, I'd be happy to continue the conversation. I put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out if you would like to continue the conversation. Visit our website. We'd love to have you in one of our workshops. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, let me know. We can organize a free online workshop for a few of your stakeholders to see if this would be worth pursuing further in your community.
Great. Thank you both so much.
Also,
also, there was a request if the PowerPoints could be shared with the people who registered today. That question came up during Saad's presentation. Would you feel okay with sharing that?
Let me think about it.
Okay. Okay. In any case, the recording is available and I will send that out to everyone who registered. So you will have access to the recording if nothing else. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Thank you again, Roman and Saad. And yeah, we encourage you to follow the Interfaith Center, and we have lots of great upcoming programming going on throughout the summer, and it's all free. And we're very glad to have you continue to join us. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day or evening, depending where you are in the world.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks everyone.